the 2-hole, and then Bailey Hemphill, who we just mentioned, hitting .351 there in the 3 spot. This is a lineup that we have pretty much seen throughout the entire season for Alabama, and obviously it's working, and Coach Patrick Murphy sticking with it.
Very consistent. I haven't seen any changes, but if it's working, you don't have anything to change. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Patrick Murphy, one of the best in the business. Very excited about this great start for his team this season. And we are underway. First pitch just misses low and outside. And Tori, I think that's going to be something that we're really going to have to keep an eye on. Yesterday, the strike zone, pretty small, and that's where Kendall Potts really started to struggle.
And it was small, but as a pitcher, that's your job, is to adjust. Move it just a couple inches either way. Find the strike zone early so you don't have to battle with those walks and getting to the second, third inning, not quite sure of where the strike zone actually is.
Tao, 2 for 4 in the series, already has 5 walks on the weekend. She's got 37 this season, which leads the NCAA. This one ripped into center field. It's gone! A leadoff home run for Kaylee Tao.
We talked about Tao leading the NCAA in walks, but this swing right here is proven that she can swing the bat. A pitch right down the middle, belt high, just an absolute miss right there. Just a great swing, stays connected, gets really long through it, and what a way to start the game for Alabama.
That is Tao's 7th home run on the season. And now it'll be KB Sides who steps into bat for the Tide.
And I think that's a difference maker. You were down 2-0 in that count. You had to bring it sweet, but the difference between a home run and a hitter's or a pitcher's pitch is you make that pitch not that hittable. Still a strike, but not something that the hitter really wants to attack.
Strike called on the outside part of the plate to even the count, 1-1. Chopper over to third. Bailey Klingler with the throw to first in time for the first out of the inning. Bailey Hemphill coming up to bat for Alabama. What makes her so good, Tori?
And you'll see this front hip, it loads back towards the catcher and allows that back hip to come aggressively through the zone. When we pause right here at her contact point, her bat disappears. That means she's getting bat lag. Her bat is coming through the zone fast. And the sad thing about this swing is she didn't even get all of it. So you know that she hit this ball hard. Imagine if she would have barreled it up. But just an incredible swing, shows off her power without a doubt.
And that clip was from Hemphill's first home run of the weekend, which came on Friday. She had a grand slam in yesterday's ball game that really was more of a line drive and just was a screamer out of the park. So if you're Kendall Potts, what's your game plan to someone like Bailey Hemphill? Where do you go with these pitches?
I'm pausing because I honestly don't know. Bailey Hemphill, I've seen her hit every single pitch with power. I've seen her hit an off-speed outside. I've seen her hit a fastball at her hand. So it's hard to say what you will do, but
this one popped up shallow center field. It's going to be Kelly Martinez, the second baseman, who actually makes the catch in the grass for out number 2. A big out right there for Potts.
And I was about to say, they had to figure out a way to get her out, and Potts did it right there.
It's going to bring up the shortstop, number 33, Claire Jenkins. Jenkins 1 for 6 on the weekend, but that one was a solo shot back in the first game. This one ripped into left center. Going back is Fortenberry. No chance. The second home run of the inning, the second home run of the weekend for Jenkins.
Claire Jenkins has been a little quiet since the first game, but she is not going without a statement, and that's what she did. She took this pitch, gets a great piece of it. Looks like a miss. You'll see the catcher, Haley Lee, shifts to the outside part, and that ball comes over the inside half of the plate, something that they have been doing all weekend. And Claire Jenkins is expecting that pitch right there on the inside half and is able to get her hips and hands through the ball and get a great extension and takes that 1 yard.
So Kaylee Tao leads off with a home run. Potts is able to get the next 2 outs, and then Claire Jenkins with a solo shot herself. Alabama up 2-0 early, which is what we have seen Alabama do such a good job of, not just this weekend, but all year, is jump ahead early. A pop-up into right field. Kylie George going to come in and call off Martinez for the 3rd out of the inning, but not before Alabama puts 2 on the board with 2 home runs. The Crimson Tide lead 2-0. Beautiful afternoon for some SEC softball. Alabama with the early lead, 2-0 on 2 solo home runs. Now it'll be Texas A&M's turn to see if they can answer back. They're going to face the freshman ace, Montana Fouts.
And when you say ace, it's not a term that you say lightly. Montana Fouts has been the go-to for Alabama. And just pitched Friday and pitched very well. Although she had 4 walks, which is very uncharacteristic of her, she had 10 strikeouts, just so dominant. And I think Montana Fouts is a name you're going to be hearing about for a very long time at Alabama.
A&M probably did not want to hear about her today, seeing her as the starting pitcher, but it's going to be a tough test for these Aggies. We're going to lead things off like they have pretty much all season with Kelby Fortenberry, the junior center fielder. Fortenberry, 3 for 7 on the weekend, has done a nice job so far. Going to see if she can get things started here for her Ags in the bottom of the 1st inning. First pitch called a strike on the outside part of the plate. Fortenberry followed by Blake Ann Fritch, Bailey Klingler hitting in the 3 spot, and Riley Sarton in that cleanup spot today for Texas A&M. Fouts working quickly ahead, no balls, 2 strikes. And after seeing her Friday, what do these A&M hitters have to kind of go at her with? What is the game plan for someone like Montana Fouts?
The game plan is going to be a little bit different today because the first game, they got down by a lot of runs very early. So they were taking a strike, seeing pitches, trying to see a lot of pitches. And today, you did see the 2 home runs in the top of the first, but they were both solos. So can't get too ahead of yourself here.
Ground ball to Jenkins in time with the throw for out number 1. And something we haven't talked a whole lot about this weekend is Alabama's defense, and they've just been really solid, especially on the infield. Claire Jenkins has made some great plays and has also done a great job just making the routine plays. Maddie Morgan at 3rd base, Skylar Wallace at 2nd, Kaylee Tao at 1st, and Reagan Dykes getting the start behind the plate today for the Crimson Tide. Speedster Alyssa Brown out in center, Maris Schroeder in left, and KB Sides in right. Blake Ann Fritch, the junior left fielder for Texas A&M, steps in, takes ball 1.
And in talking about Alabama's defense, I think that's why we haven't seen very many switches or subs or anything other than the fact that they only have 4 position players off the bench. A very small team this year with 5, I believe, pitchers, non-hitters.
This one will get through the 5-6 hole, so a base hit for Blake Ann Fritch. And Fritch doing a nice job on the weekend. That is her 3rd hit of the series.
Just someone you don't hear much about being in the 2nd hole. That's a sacrifice position normally, but Blake Ann Fritch just stepping up in this spot, taking an outside pitch and just going with it, not doing too much, keeping it simple.
So A&M with speed at 1st in Fritch. That's going to bring up the freshman 3rd baseman, Bailey Klingler. Klingler has been starting at 1st, but Texas A&M with some defensive switches. So today she is at 3rd, which is where she played in high school. Klingler 0 for 5 on the weekend, so she is looking for her 1st hit against Alabama. And Klingler, coming into this series against Alabama, had a base hit in every conference game that the Aggies have played, but really just hasn't been able to find a hole through this defense so far this weekend.
It's tough, too, when you're facing a team and you go into your first at-bat already down 3, 4, 5 runs. So it can be difficult getting in there, especially as a young hitter. You don't have that mentality of there's a lot of game left.
This one out into right field. KB Sides on the run. She'll make the catch, and Fritsch heads back to first base.
It's easy for these A&M hitters to feel almost defeated as you step into the box the first at-bat because you're already down runs and you feel like you have to press and try to get hits. And instead of just going up there loose, seeing pitches, putting good swings on good pitches.
Head coach Jo Evans in her 23rd season here at Texas A&M, Hall of Famer. Trying to see if they can squeeze out a win here against Alabama today. Riley Sarton, the lone senior in this Texas A&M lineup, steps in. Sarton hails from Aledo, Texas, hitting .321 on the season, is 0 for 4 on the weekend, however, also looking for her first hit against Alabama. This one ripped over to the second baseman, but Wallace able to make the grab for out number 3. So Texas A&M able to get a runner on, but does not get anything across. Alabama keeps the 2-0 lead. 2 runs on 2 solo home runs for Alabama as the Tide has the early 2-0 lead. A big defensive shift for Texas A&M today. Riley Sarton actually moving over to shortstop. And Tori, what do you think about this move for Texas A&M?
I think with so many different and moving parts in the fall and the offseason, this was an option early, but with Riley Sarton being an All-American at third base, how do you take an All-American and move her from her position to put her at short? But Riley Sarton is an athletic player, athletic defender, and you see that at third. And shortstop is one of those positions where you have to take charge, you have to be very vocal, and we talked about it earlier in different broadcasts, but Riley Sarton hasn't been a vocal leader in the past, and taking that move to shortstop, she has been thrown into that position. And then we see Bailey Klingler at third, which has been at first, but third is her main position coming into college. So first base was her secondary position. So it's interesting, and these two have a really good connection off the field and on the field. So I'm excited to see just their momentum and the way they communicate on the field and how it relays into their play.
So Sarton at short, Klingler at third, Kelly Martinez stays at second, and then Peyton McBride gets the start at first base today for Texas A&M. Reagan Dykes to start things off for the Crimson Tide, takes the first pitch for a strike. Dykes 2 for 4 on the weekend, has had 3 walks against Texas A&M, so has done a really nice job of finding her way on base, hitting .354. Off-speed pitch misses up. 2 balls and 1 strike. Dykes getting the start behind the plate today for Alabama. Her and Hemphill kind of switch back and forth between starting as catcher and then in that designated player position. Kendall Potts gave up 2 home runs, both solo shots in the first inning. Dykes gets a piece of that one and fouls it off to the first baseline. We talked about Texas A&M's defensive switch in the infield. Kylie George out in right field getting the start today. We've seen that position really just kind of a ever-rotating of players for Texas A&M. George with a ton of speed, can really track down balls pretty well. There's the 2-2 to Dyke. Swing and a miss. Got her on the rise ball. First strikeout of the day for Kendall Potts.
Just a pitch up in the zone with Potts throwing pretty hard, and Dyke sees that ball up at her eyes, makes it really enticing to swing at, but just gets under that one, and we'll head back to the dugout with a strikeout.
And what a great first out for Kendall Potts after giving up those 2 home runs in the first inning. Kind of settles down, is finding the strike zone, misses right there to Maddie Morgan.
And that is such a huge out, because when we talked about Kendall Potts, we talked about all the walks she had yesterday. And I think that's the difference between the 2 that's up on the board right now and the 5 that was up in the first inning yesterday with walks and then home runs. Solos will never kill you, but when you walk people, that's what hurts you.
Morgan able to lay off that pitch that was also up in the zone. Morgan, the sophomore from Linwood, Washington. She's 2 for 6 this weekend against Texas A&M, hitting .351. And this is what we've seen a lot from Potts this season, Tori. She'll get a strikeout or a ground out, have a great pitch sequence at bat, and then she follows it up with 3 straight balls. And it's just that inconsistency that we've seen from her that has really hurt her this season.
She needs to take that momentum from the strikeout and keep it going and attack the strike zone instead of dancing around it and making pitches more difficult than they need to be. Just throw a curveball, make it cut on the outside part of the zone instead of, oh, let me make it start outside of the zone and end outside of the zone. Something needs to start inside the zone to make these Alabama hitters swing.
Ball forward to Maddie Morgan. She'll head down to first base with the walk. The first walk for the day for Potts. And that is definitely a number that we'll want to keep an eye on because it tends to get out of hand, or it has in the past. Patrick Murphy, one of the best in the business, most wins in school history at 1,056. He got his 400th SEC win in that opener against Missouri a couple weekends ago. And Tori, we talked about it earlier. There is no other SEC coach to even reach 300 wins, and he's now sitting over 400.
That's a huge difference. When you look at it, I mean, wins are hard to come by, especially in the SEC. And I think that speaks just about the culture that he's created at Alabama and just the tradition that's passed on from class to class. It doesn't stop when one class graduates. It's passed down by those seniors, by those juniors, and really shown, and they show by example when they win games and they take ownership of their play and they're held accountable and they hold each other accountable. So that's huge. 400 wins is a great milestone, and congrats to Coach Murphy.
21st season as the head coach at Alabama, but has been with the program since its inception. So that's another thing. When you just take a look at the culture of this program, I mean, he has truly been behind it all.
Little dirt situation going on here. Kendall Potts' cleats are getting a little clogged with the dirt.
A couple of members of the Texas A&M field crew are going to come out and inspect the circle.
Just going to pack that pitching circle right there, try to make it a little harder. Too much loose dirt can make it kind of wobbly on your ankle whenever you do land from your stride as a pitcher.
And a quick shout out to the field crew here at Davis Diamond. They are truly one of the best crews in the country. And Tori, I know you've talked about it before on previous broadcasts, how important it is to feel comfortable and to have this nice of a field. And we're not just talking about Davis Diamond. It was this field crew, the playing surface, right. Correct. Even when you played in the old stadium, how nice it was.
It's definitely something that flies under the radar. As when you get to college, you don't think about how often they're up here, how much work they put into the field. These guys are constantly in communication with us as players and asking, hey, how did the dirt play today? Especially with the infielder crew, which I was a part of. Hey, how did the dirt play? Were the ground balls good? Did they take any bad hops? Is there any spots we need to work on? And just making sure to communicate with us if we wanted a little bit harder surface, or say a Georgia, a team that is known for slamming the ball into the ground for slappers, maybe make it a little bit softer, make it a little bit easier for us, not as easy for them to get hit. So just something no one sees behind the scenes, but these guys and girls put in so much work, and they are greatly appreciated by everyone around the country for sure. And so you'll see them throwing a little bit of extra dirt. I'm sure this has a very scientific name that I don't know, but this is just what they normally put in the dirt. If it's a little too wet, quick dry the field really, really fast there.
Well, it is a beautiful day in College Station for softball, about 78 degrees. The wind is blowing a little bit out, honestly. So, any of these hitters, if they can get one up in that wind tunnel, it's a good day to be a hitter right now here at Davis Diamond.
It's always a good day to be a hitter.
And it's so nice to see the sun. That's a good point. It's so nice to see the sun. And I'm sure everyone around the country has struggled with the weather this year, but Texas A&M especially, it just seems like whether they were at home or on the road before SEC started, it was just they really had to struggle with some miserable weather.
It has been pretty cold and very cloudy. Mm-hmm. In February, I remember we were talking about this earlier. In February, there was only 2 sunshine days in the whole month.
In the whole month of February, which
is a new
is
low.
Yeah. It was, kind of like you understand people who live in Seattle or somewhere up in the Northeast where you don't get a lot of sunshine. And so it definitely is nice today, though. Kendall Potts getting back in the circle to throw a couple of pitches and make sure that it is to her liking.
And that is tough because both Potts and Fouts are tall, so they're going to have around the same stride length. No one's ever exact on the money with another pitcher, but when you are taller, you will end up closer to the line, the front of the circle, and when it's just landed on over and over and over again, it can start to create a little divot. So there are some pitches like a drop ball. You want to shorten your stride and try to get on top of the ball, so it's not going to affect you as much. But with both of these pitchers being a little bit more up in the zone, they're going to try to stride out, get under that ball, which if you land in the wrong spot, it can be bad news.
Both Fouts and Potts at 6'1". And so, as you mentioned, both very tall pitchers. And we are ready to get back underway. Skylar Wallace, the count is now 2 balls, no strikes. Wallace, the freshman out of Woodstock, Georgia. Hitting .329 on the season, does have 4 home runs. Maddie Morgan still sitting over at first base. And Potts, again, behind in the count, 3 balls, no strikes.
And this is kind of making you wonder, is she relying too much on, the dirt's too soft? There comes to a point where, yes, it's soft, but you have to play through the elements. Just go at her.
She does find the zone on that one. So 3 balls, 1 strike to Wallace. Wallace is 1 for 3 on the weekend. And that's going to miss up in the zone. So after starting the inning with a strikeout, Kendall Potts has now walked back-to-back hitters.
And this is what normally gets her in trouble, is those walks. And we saw she had 8 yesterday. Just something you cannot afford as a pitcher. And especially when your opponent already has a 2-0 lead on you, you don't want to give any other opportunities for them to score. Make them earn it. You've heard me say this a million times this weekend. Make them earn it. Make them do something to get on.
Alyssa Brown steps in, takes the first pitch for a ball. You saw Coach Evans going out, kind of stepping outside of the dugout, talking to her infield. Alyssa Brown with a ton of speed, but you have runners at first and second, so you've got to force out at every base and just kind of making sure everybody knows where they're going if they get this ball.
Makes it a little bit easier when someone as speedy as Brown comes up to bat and you have a force play at any base. It allows you to have more options. Like I said, Brown is very speedy, so if she pulls anything to second base with Martinez, Martinez is going to have to charge it and then turn her shoulders, which takes a couple more steps. And as a defender, every step you take, the runner takes 3 steps. So you have to think about minimizing the amount of movement to a ball. You have to be sharp. You have to be quick. And it makes it easier when you have other options other than just first base to get her out.
Quick chat from Haley Lee out to Kendall Potts. Here's the 2-0. Something she said worked. 2 balls, 1 strike to Brown. Brown already 24 stolen bases on the year, and we've seen a few this weekend. Nice pitch right there by Potts. Really hasn't been getting that call on the outside part of the plate, but you talked about it. Bring it in just a smidge more. Find a way to get that call.
And the difference between that pitch and the walk to Maddie Morgan was that pitch was a little bit lower. Try to get it right under their belt and then make it jump.
Here's the 2-2. Just misses low and outside. So a full count to Alyssa Brown. Runners at first and second. Brown hitting .414 with runners in scoring position. Alabama trying to add to their lead. Pop up on the infield. Klingler calls it and makes the catch for out number 2.
It's a big out there. You never want to walk a slapper. It's probably the worst person you could walk because they already have so much speed. You don't want to just give them that base because they'll probably take 3 because they can run.
So Potts avoids the walk, but it is going to bring up the top of the order. Kaylee Tao started this game off with a solo shot. So definitely a dangerous hitter for Kendall Potts to face with 2 runners on.
Looking at Tao, you've seen her produce in many different ways. You've seen her walk. You've seen her get a single, 2 RBI single. You've seen her hit a home run now. She can do a little bit of everything, so you definitely do have to be careful. And talking about that home run, we go back to the first inning. Kaylee Tao just taking a pitch right down the middle, right back where it came from, over the fence, not even a chance. What a way to start off the game.
You can see the emotion. You can see how hyped this team is. And it doesn't matter how many runs they score. They continue to stay excited. This one ripped into center field. Fortenberry will come home with the throw. Haley Lee makes the tag and gets Maddie Morgan trying to come home. So a huge defensive play for the Aggies will end the inning. And Texas A&M escapes without any runs being scored. The Aggies will come back to bat when we come back after this. Welcome back. The 3rd-ranked Crimson Tide up 2-0. Texas A&M comes up to bat in the bottom of the 2nd, but really, Tori, Texas A&M has struggled at the plate so far this weekend.
And the number that I'm always going to look at is your average with runners in scoring position, and I think the score is very telling of that stat right there. Only 142, 2 for 14 with runners in scoring position. You have to get timely hitting when runners are on base. If you're getting hits with no one on it, in the end, it doesn't really matter unless you're stringing hits together and people are already on base.
Well, if you want to talk about a bright spot in this lineup, it is number 22, Danny Elder. She is 4 for 5 on the weekend with a home run, her first career home run. She steps in, the sophomore from League City.
And Elder, not someone who you see in the lineup very often earlier in the season, and did get her opportunity and took complete advantage of it. Every time she goes in, it's a new day. She's not thinking about anything that happened in the past. She's not too excited, too low. She just stays very even, and a great mindset as a hitter just to stay even, not let yourself get too nervous or too down on yourself. Got to stay confident and even in there.
Elder got the start behind the plate in the first 2 games of the series. Haley Lee is catching today, but Elder in the designated player position. Coach Joe Evans not very happy with that last strike that was called. Here's the 1-2. One misses outside to even the count, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Oh, and actually the count is 3-1. So there was something, and I don't know if an illegal pitch got called that I missed, but Elder fouls that one off. So now the count is full, 3 balls, 2 strikes. I think that's what Coach Evans was trying to get the umpire's attention, make sure that they had the count correct. So 3 balls, 2 strikes. As Elder steps in, Fouts gets the signal from the dugout. Strike 3, rung her up. Danny Elder thought that one was low, but she will go back to the dugout, the first strikeout victim of the day for Montana Fouts.
Just a great pitch, keeping it low in the zone, right at the knees, and also a great job by Dykes to kind of pull that pitch up just a little bit. You see her glove move ever so slightly, move that ball up into the strike zone, a great frame. Just a pitch you need to hit as if you're Danny Elder. Not something you want to let go, that's for sure.
Peyton McBride, the first baseman today, steps in, 1 for 2 on the weekend. We thought we might see McBride start in the circle today for Texas A&M. She did pitch a little bit yesterday, but we didn't see her for very long, and we thought maybe that was because they would want to start her in Game 3 and didn't want to give Alabama a whole lot of a look at her. But with the defensive shift today that Texas A&M made, they decided to go with McBride at first.
And with those lineup rules, it still could be a possibility if Potts does get in trouble. McBride can still come in and they can insert a flex player for Potts.
Jenkins makes the dive. Will the throw be in time? It is. Claire Jenkins with another spectacular play over at short.
I think she just needs the ESPN Top 10 soundbite as her walk-up song. She's made this play so many times this weekend, just diving to her left. Ball pops out of her glove, is still able to pick it up with her hand and make a great throw to first base. Just incredible athleticism.
And Tori, you talked about it earlier this weekend. Jenkins played third last season for Alabama and was able to make that move over to shortstop and has really just been solid, a solid defender for the Tide this season. Haley Lee steps in, check swing, fouls that one off. Lee 0 for 4 on the weekend with 4 strikeouts, so he's really struggled at the plate for Texas A&M in this series.
Someone that you look to as one of the more veteran freshman players, someone who is supposed to have a big bat when you look at the numbers, and just tough break this weekend with 4 strikeouts. Just got to go pitch by pitch, put a barrel on something and see if you can poke it through.
Well, and going to that last pitch, that check swing, we've seen that a couple of times from her where she's trying to lay off a pitch and then still ends up getting a piece of it. And that's a tough break for a hitter.
Got to recognize the pitch a little bit earlier. Make sure you're not firing your barrel before you're firing your hips.
This one popped up into shallow left center, and it will fall. So a base hit for Haley Lee. She is finally able to get something going. And it wasn't necessarily the hardest hit we've seen all weekend, but it got the job done.
And she really needed this hit. Just caught her on the handle, but sometimes that's how the game goes. You don't hit it as hard as you can, and it finds a hole somewhere. But that's the game paying you back right there. Tough 4 strikeouts earlier in the series, but lands a little floater out in left field.
Coach Evans going to call time here to bring in both Haley Lee and then the hitters that she has coming up to kind of talk about the situation. And you can see the hitting coach, Keith Stein, and then assistant coach Joy Jackson also out there. So everybody kind of involved right now in this huddle. Got Kelly Martinez in that huddle. She is up next. And although Kylie George is in the lineup in right field, it does look like we're going to see Morgan Smith possibly be a pinch hitter. And I'm sure it also just kind of depends on what happens in this next at-bat for Texas A&M.
Just bringing them together there, most likely telling Martinez, hey, find a pitch down in the zone, try to hit a line drive ground ball somewhere through the infield, and Lee's running on contact with 2 outs, so just to get a good jump and make sure you're going aggressive into the base and thinking 2 bases, not 1 base. You want to get closer to home, and stopping station to station definitely takes a little bit longer.
Kelly Martinez, the junior transfer from Utah out of California. And when I say transfer, it was a very, very late transfer. She came and took a look at the school in December, then packed her bags and was here by early January. So really very, very new member of this Texas A&M team. Takes that pitch from Fouts, low and outside. Martinez, the hero of Texas A&M's midweek game. This week it was a 15-inning thriller against SFA. Martinez finally coming up with the big 2-run shot in the bottom of the 15th to clinch that victory for the Aggies. And a nice eye, nice at bat so far for Martinez as she works the count to 3 balls, no strikes. Fouts is able to find the zone on that one. 3 balls, 1 strike. Martinez taking all the way on that pitch. Haley Lee sitting over at first after her single. I mentioned Fouts did have 4 walks in the first game on Friday. A little uncharacteristic. Check swing gets a piece of it though, so that'll bring the count to 3 balls, 2 strikes. Fouts came into the weekend with only 11 walks on the season, which is an incredible number for anyone, but especially a freshman.
It is. Just being able to handle the mental side of the game. And the thing about Fouts is she's been in that situation in high school and has definitely proved to keep it going in college.
Lined over to Jenkins, but she makes the backhanded snag. Claire Jenkins, as you said, Tori, she just needs that SportsCenter Top 10 soundbite because she has been excellent on the infield for the Tide. Alabama up to bat when we come back. Welcome back to Davis Diamond. Alabama with the 2-0 lead as we head into the 3rd inning of play. Alabama trying to clinch the sweep today over Texas A&M, and they have just been lights out this weekend.
8 home runs, but then you see the next number, 19 walks. And when you have so many home runs, but you have people on, it makes it easy to get the score really high, as you've seen 2-run rule victories. A lot of those coming from home runs.
2 home runs already in this ball game. That is the reason for the 2-0 lead. KB Sides, the right fielder, steps in, takes the first pitch for a ball. Kendall Potts has walked 2 so far this game, and we mentioned the free passes, just something that the Texas A&M pitching staff as a whole has struggled with this season. Sides 0 for 1 on the day. Grounded out to Klingler over at third base in her first at-bat. Potts misses low and out for ball 3, so 3 balls in a row from Potts as she works to find the strike zone. Pitching coach Kara Dill in her 3rd season at Texas A&M. Played at Kentucky and actually played as shortstop. But pitched in high school and really has done a nice job with Texas A&M. I know that they've had their struggles this season, but you know, Tori, for someone who played on the team when Coach Dill was there, what was the biggest difference you saw when she came to the program?
Just how dedicated she was. She was constantly watching film and scouting hitters and just communicates really well with her pitchers.
Ground ball to Klingler. The throw is in time for the first out. We talked about how Klingler was a third baseman in high school. That is her true position, I guess you could say, and she definitely looks comfortable over there so far this afternoon.
And I think you can say the same for a bunch of A&M players, whether it's right now or ones in the past or ones in the future. Coach Evans likes to recruit athletes, and I told you this earlier. I myself was recruited as a shortstop and ended up playing first base. So, I mean, an athlete is an athlete. They should be able to play anywhere on the infield, and same with the outfield.
Hemphill swinging at the first pitch. This one will stay in the park. Kelby Fortenberry makes the catch in center.
I think anytime a ball from Hemphill goes up in the air, you kind of pause and wait to see how far it's going to go.
When we talked about the first home run she had this weekend, it was in the first inning in Friday's ball game. And when it came off the bat, I thought it was a fly ball into right field. Then all of a sudden it just carried, and eventually left the park. So much power. You're right. Anything that comes off the bat from Hemphill, you kind of get up in your seat a little bit. Claire Jenkins, who has been outstanding defensively today, also great at the plate. Hit a home run back in the first inning. Her 8th home run of the season. Rips this one foul. Coach Murphy kind of having to get out of the way, playing a little footwork.
Jenkins going yard, her first AB, taking a pitch low in the zone. No doubter, hit that one really solid. I'm sure she needed that after kind of a quiet series, except her other home run in the first game.
I was going to say her second home run of the weekend, but you're right. Other than that, I mean, she was 1 for 6 coming into this ball game. That one hit was the home run, and then followed it up with one today. Check swing, they said she did not offer, so 2 balls, 1 strike.
Ooh, that's tough. It's hard, too, because on a rise ball, your barrel is going to be closer to the ball because it's higher and it's closer to your bat rather than a drop ball. Like if she check swung at that pitch just now, her barrel wouldn't look as close because it's farther away from her barrel in the grand scheme of a person standing.
Jenkins with a hitter's count, 3 balls, 1 strike. Fly ball out into center field. Fortenberry under it with the catch. So 3 up, 3 down. Texas A&M, a good inning right there. They will try to see if they can cut into this Alabama lead when we come back. Taking a look at how Game 1 and Game 2 of this series ended up. It was a huge offensive display in Game 1 for Alabama, but really the story was Fouts and how successful she was.
And we've heard both of these names the entire series, just how good they both are. Montana Fouts had a great outing on Friday, 10 strikeouts, only 5 innings pitched, run rule victory, and then Hemphill, grand slam along with her other 3-run home run, also taking her walks when she has them.
Morgan Smith will swing at the first pitch, and that's going to be down the line fair. Smith is going to head for second. Here comes the throw. Not in time. A leadoff double from the freshman, Morgan Smith.
I love that from Morgan Smith. Just takes an outside pitch and lets it travel, and that's something that I think the A&M offense has been struggling with because Montana Fouts does throw hard. They think that they have to fire so quickly, but let it travel in the zone and just pokes that. And I really love that she tried to get to second base. Such an aggressive move, and you really need that. Put a runner in scoring position with 1 swing, and now let the rest of your lineup take care of business.
And now you've got the hottest hitter for Texas A&M up to bat, leadoff Kelby Fortenberry. Shows bunt right there, pulls back for ball 1. And this is where Fortenberry is such a tough out because she can do so much at the plate.
She really is a true triple threat. She has the speed to lay down a bunt. She can slap if she needs to, but she can also hit for power. You see 1 home run, but whenever I played with her in practice, she'd hit multiple home runs during rounds of batting practice. So you know that she has it in her. And as a corner going up against her when we would do I guess inter-squad games was I never knew where to play because she could bunt it in front of me or she could rocket it past me. So you take your chances with Kelby Fortenberry.
Shows bunt again, pulls back. 2 balls, 1 strike to Fortenberry. She's hitting .417 on the season.
And I will say that they will probably try to bunt right here because the next hitter up, Blake Ann Fritch, has been seeing the ball really well all series, with Fortenberry being a great bunter. But now, down in the count, we'll see what she decides to do here.
Yeah, decided to hold off on that one, but it was called a strike. So now with 2 strikes, Fortenberry will have to protect the plate. Smith led off the inning with a double down the third baseline. Fortenberry fights that one off. And yeah, Blake Ann Fritch over in the on-deck circle.
Bounced off the foam beam and ricocheted and hit her in the back. Joking with her teammates about how fast she was trying to move. Not fast enough.
Not fast enough, Blake Ann.
You got to be quicker than that.
Fouts tried to go high in the zone, and Fortenberry able to fight that one off. Texas A&M dugout staying loose. Always a lot of smiles from those two right there, Moreno and McBride.
Can always count on that.
Fouts misses low and outside, so now a 3-ball, 2-strike count to Fortenberry.
Needs to just find something here that she can throw her barrel at.
That's exactly what she does right there, to just fight that one off. And I like this about Fortenberry. She knows that that outside part of the plate is getting called right now for Montana Fouts. And so that pitch definitely on the outside part of the plate, and she knew that she had to protect with 2 strikes.
And Fortenberry, just a smart hitter overall, with a lot of walks, not very many strikeouts. She knows where the zone's at, and she's going to hit it if it's close.
Ground ball to the right side. Wallace makes the play, but Fortenberry gets the job done in the sense of moving Smith over to third.
That's all you can ask for right there. Would have done the same exact thing as the bunt would have. So just good situational hitting by Fortenberry. Not trying to do too much, which can easily be done when you're the hottest hitter in the lineup. You try to be the one all the time, but in that situation, get your job done. Let the person after you do their job, hit a sac fly or get an RBI single through the infield.
Fritch 1 for 1 on the day. Did have a single into that 5-6 hole in her first at-bat. Coach Evans talking with her base runner, Morgan Smith, making sure that she knows what to do on any type of hit ball right here by Fritch. And Texas A&M right here only down 2-0, and all weekend I think we've just felt that they've been down by so many runs. It's been hard for them to kind of climb out of that hole, but right here with a chance to cut this lead in half, I mean, this is a big opportunity for the Aggies.
This is one of the biggest runs that they'll get all series if they can get it, because it's going to change the momentum of the game. Like you said, it'll cut the lead in half, but then it also gives you a little bit of hope going into it, knowing that you're still in the game. It keeps your energy alive, and in past games, they've gotten down on themselves knowing we're in a really big hole right now. It can seem like such a tough battle to try to come back from, but right here, it's definitely within grasp.
Here's the 1-2 to Fritch. Chases one up in the zone, able to foul it off. And for Texas A&M, we've talked about the offensive struggles this series, and you mentioned it, Tori, that 2 for 14 with runners in scoring position. So the Aggies have had their opportunities, and they just haven't been able to cash in.
Those 14 strikeouts, when you don't put the ball in play, it's hard to score runs.
10 of those coming to Montana Fouts. She tries to get Fritch to chase another one out of the zone. Fritch able to lay off, evens the count, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Check swing, and Dykes won't even ask for that one to be looked at.
always telling, too, if the catcher asks for help, you know it's going to be a little close, whereas as a viewer, you're watching and it looks kind of close, but if the catcher doesn't ask, you know, there's probably no chance that they're going to call it.
I expected to see Dykes point down, but she didn't. So Fritsch 3-2, ground ball. It's going to get past Morgan, but Jenkins will make the play right behind her. And Smith stays at first. So another huge defensive play for Claire Jenkins at short.
Tough break there. That's the only place in the field, really, that you could hit that ball and the runner wouldn't score. Anything else, second base a slow roller, first base a slow roller, but this is just a rocket to Claire Jenkins. Diving Maddie Morgan, just able to throw this ball over and not having to check the runner because she's so close. If Smith would have ran home, she would have been dead meat, no chance at all.
And it's almost like Jenkins was shifted over knowing that Fritsch really likes to hit right there in that hole. And so just a nice defensive play for Alabama, and again holding the runner at third. Bailey Klingler swinging at the first pitch, fouls that one off. 0 for 1 on the day, flew out to right field in her first at bat. And a big opportunity right here for the freshman. Montana Fouts on Friday was just so good in the circle for the Tide. We mentioned it, 10 strikeouts, and she did it up and down in the zone.
She did. She used up pitches, she used down pitches, and then she also pulled that string and fooled a lot of these A&M hitters. 10 strikeouts, just a great outing by a freshman.
A great pitch right there from the freshman. Makes the count 1 ball, 2 strikes. Klingler hitting .278 with runners in scoring position. .304 overall. I like that pitch right there by Fouts. She got the called strike the pitch before, which you could tell Klingler wasn't necessarily comfortable with, so she goes back low and outside, trying to get her to chase something out of the zone.
The 3-hole hitter, you have to love the situation here. 2 strikes, 2 outs, runner on. Make this your moment.
Klingler able to lay off of the rise ball. It's now a full count and a very dangerous Riley Sarton on deck. Although both Klingler and Sarton very quiet. A combined 0 for 11 in this series. This one ripped into right field. It'll fall. An RBI single for Bailey Klingler.
A big moment for a young player, and I said it earlier, that will be the most important run for the Aggies this series. Cut the lead in half. Way to show up in a big moment as a freshman. 2 outs, 2 strikes. You're going to be put in this situation a lot, so you have to learn how to embrace it. Just a pitch on the outside half, just making sure her barrel stays connected with her shoulders. Goes down to get that pitch, doesn't do too much, stays on it and through it, drops it in right field, and that's an RBI single for Bailey Klingler.
As we mentioned, Klingler was 0 for 6 on the weekend, but a great moment to get that first hit. And that'll bring up Riley Sarton, the lone senior on this Texas A&M team. 0 for 1 on the day, lined out to second in her first at bat. Also looking for her first hit of the series. Check swing called strike, evens the count. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And in talking about that Klingler hit, just again, that run, you had a leadoff double. That can be backbreaking if you don't get that run across the board with a big swing, no outs, runner in scoring position. So to get that run across is huge for them.
We're going to have a hit by a pitch, so Riley Sarton will head down to first, followed by Klingler's single. Sarton, she does this a lot, and she's so good at just staying in and takes that one right off the elbow pad.
And your natural instincts just as a human are to get out of the way if something's flying at you. And Sarton does a great job of just staying in, not freaking out, just embracing the pain. She knows it's probably going to hurt, but that's why she wears all this gear. She knows she's protected if she can stay in there.
That is the 10th time that Riley Sarton has been hit by a pitch this season. And, I mean, anyone else who has been hit this year, just once. And she's been hit 10 times.
Well, I think a lot of people would rather hit her than let her hit.
That's a good point. Danny Elder steps in 0 for 1 with a strikeout. But one of the hottest hitters in this Texas A&M lineup this weekend. 4 for 6 against Alabama. Special moment for Elder on Friday. First career home run. And as someone who played with her, and it got you excited. It was a special moment to watch that.
It is. I mean, I think anybody's first career home run, wearing the jersey that they dreamed about wearing for so long, just an incredible moment. We'll take a look at it. Danny Elder taking a changeup, keeping her weight back on her back foot, driving through that ball. Oftentimes you see hitters slow their swing down with a changeup. Took a ferocious swing through the zone, and it went.
Down in the count here, 1 ball, 2 strikes. And they will call her looking. So the second strikeout of the day for Elder. Texas A&M leaves 2 runners on, but not before they get one across on this RBI single by Bailey Klingler. Alabama with the 2-1 lead as we head into the 4th inning. So a much closer game than we've seen the last 2 games. Chelsea Reber along with Tori Vidalis. Tori, why has it been so much closer in Game 3 today?
I think A&M's pitching staff has done a better job today of getting 3 up, 3 down, not letting the Tide have big innings. And then on the other side of the ball, when they're hitting, they're seeing a lot more pitches. They're not striking out as much. They're putting balls in play. Even though they may not be getting on base, they're not striking out. They're putting the ball in the field, making contact, and it's easier to score when you hit the ball and not just watching it pass you by on 3 strikes.
Texas A&M able to answer in the 3rd with that 1 run. Morgan Smith scoring from 3rd on the RBI single by Bailey Klingler. Now Alabama, who has done a great job this season of answering back. We'll see if they can do it this inning. Maris Schroeder is going to start things off for the Tide. Schroeder 0 for 1 on the day, hitting .297 on the season. It has had a very nice weekend here in College Station. 2 home runs against Texas A&M. And what does it do for Kendall Potts knowing that her offense has been able to score a run against someone as good as Montana Fouts? There was a possibility of more runs that inning with runners on base. How does that make her feel now coming out into the circle here in the 4th?
I want to say it makes her feel more comfortable, but at the same time, you have to know that Alabama is a team that answers back. So you can't just go and distribute hits.
This one ripped down the right field line. It is fair. Schroeder will hold up at 2nd, but a leadoff double for Maris Schroeder to get things started in the top of the 4th.
Thought that one was going to be foul there, but just snuck in by first base. Schroeder taking a pitch up and in, just keeps her hands in pretty nicely there. You'll see hips, hands clear through, gets a barrel extension, contact out in front of her body, which is what you want on that inside pitch. And I thought she might have tried for 3, but decided to take it for 2.
And they are actually going to rule this a foul ball. So Maris Schroeder will come back, but a little conversation right here with the umpires. And now Coach Murphy's going to come out and talk with the home plate umpire. It's Brandon Bloom behind home plate, Don Brown over at 1st, and Anthony Small at 3rd. See if we can get a look at this hit from Schroeder.
Bounced,
and it's really tough.
Of that line.
It's really tough from this angle. But I mean, Peyton McBride, she was pretty adamant that she thought that ball was foul. And so a conversation between the umpires
You will see this ball bounce in fair territory, bounces over the base. I think that ball is fair.
So a break for Texas A&M. Schroeder fouls the next pitch back.
That's a big break when you're talking about Alabama's answering back stat with a leadoff double. We just talked about how important a leadoff double was and how backbreaking that could be if you don't score that run. So Alabama is one of those teams that's always going to score that leadoff double, and just brought her back to the plate. That is a tough break.
This one lifted up into the infield. Kelly Martinez gets under it and makes the catch. So what would have been a leadoff double for Maris Schroeder gets ruled a foul ball, and Texas A&M ends up with the first out in the inning.
You hate to see that as a hitter. You made a good swing on a good pitch, and a double compared to a flyout, that's just, you definitely want that back.
And a lot of people have been asking, will instant replay come to college softball? And we spoke with Joe Evans before this series started for Texas A&M, and Reagan Dykes is going to lift this one up and out. It will be foul. Talking with Coach Evans, she said they will have instant replay in effect for the SEC tournament. So it is something that the NCAA is going to allow them to try out here at the SEC tournament, which is going to be played here at Davis Diamond. And I think that's going to be a really, really interesting aspect to keep an eye on at the tournament, because it is something that obviously we have not seen yet in college softball.
And when talking about replays, it can really change the entire path of a game just by one call. I know there's been so many plays in my career that have literally just changed the outcome of the game, whether it be a foot out of the box or a close play at first or a play at the plate. Just so many different things. And when your season is almost riding on these wins, quality wins, if you're A&M, if there was a call right here that didn't go your way, it could change whether or not you get a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed in a regionals bid. So it is game changing, maybe season changing for a couple plays here and there. So I think it'll be a great opportunity for them to test it out during the SEC tournament.
Dykes into left field. Fritsch is on the run, but another foul ball. So a long strike right there for Reagan Dykes, but she has gotten a hold of 2 of these pitches and has just missed foul.
That one's a little closer than the last one for sure. I had to wait for the umpire to throw his hands up. Blake Ann Fritsch running back to the fence. It had a chance.
This time she goes oppo. It's going to short hop Kelly Martinez, but with a nice flip to Peyton McBride. And a good defensive play right there for Texas A&M.
And Martinez just doing a great job of coming to the ball, cutting that ball off on the angle instead of waiting back, coming just laterally to the ball. She goes at a diagonal up and forward to the ball, which creates that short hop for her instead of getting a long hop. A little bit easier to make a play, but that's a great job by Kelly Martinez.
Martinez, a catcher by trade, but when she joined the Texas A&M program, Coach Evans asked her, would you be willing to play on the infield? We really need someone at second base. And she said, hey, absolutely. I just want to play, Coach. And you got to love that attitude. And she really has worked hard this season trying to get used to that position. And I've definitely seen improvement in her at that position at second base.
I think if a coach just asked you, hey, do you want to play this position? Absolutely. Put me in.
Put me in, Coach.
I will take 50 extra reps every single day until I get good at it.
Maddie Morgan takes the changeup for strike number 2. So Potts working ahead in this count. No balls, 2 strikes. Morgan walked in her first at-bat back in the second inning. And that's a good pitch right there by Kendall Potts. We've seen multiple times this season on an 0-2 pitch, she gets too close to the zone and ends up either giving up a hit or we've seen a home run also given up on no balls, 2 strikes.
Just seeing her get better as the season goes on.
Chopped over to third base. Klingler will take it on the hop and make the strong throw in time. So Another 3-up, 3-down inning for the Texas A&M defense. See if they can tie things up when we come back after this. Alabama with the 2-1 lead. Taking a look at how it has happened. 2 solo shots in the first inning, and since then Texas A&M has been able to stifle that powerful offense from Alabama, and then Texas A&M able to put one up in the bottom of the third.
Just taking a look at this recap, you will see those solo home runs. Kaylee Tao, very first at bat of the game, way to make a statement, and then you see Claire Jenkins gonna get in on that action and just take 1 yard. And A&M doing a great job of coming back. A leadoff double from Morgan Smith and Bailey Klingler in the third inning, getting this RBI, a huge run for A&M. And then on the flip side, stopping Alabama from answering back in the top of the fourth, which would prove to be probably the most important turning point for the game for the momentum-wise when you talk about A&M. So if they can score here, it's going to be big, and they may be able to run away with it if they keep playing like this.
It's going to be the 6, 7, and 8 hitters up for Texas A&M. Peyton McBride will step in to start things off. Takes the first pitch for a strike on the outside part of the plate. McBride 0 for 1 on the day. Grounded out in her first at-bat over to Jenkins at short. And McBride is definitely someone who I've really enjoyed watching progress throughout her career, and especially as a hitter. We talk a lot, especially this year, her role as a pitcher for Texas A&M, but as a hitter, you've really seen that progression and the growth.
Every year she's gotten better and better, and sophomore year she had more at-bats than she got freshman year, and now you see her in her junior season getting the most at-bats she's had in her career. And there was a point in time where she was just on fire, had so many RBIs, and you see her trying to get comfortable again in SEC play and not hitting as well as she would like, I'm sure, but it takes a little while, especially when you're pitching and hitting. It's 2 completely different sides of the game, and it can be tough to kind of switch your mentality back and forth, but she's doing a great job so far.
Yeah, McBride came into this ballgame leading the team with 20 RBI. Now sits at a 2-2 count. Fouts really trying to work that outside part of the plate, just misses. Brings the count to full. Got her swinging on that pitch out of the zone for strike number 3, and Fouts' third strikeout of the game.
Fouts just attacking that outside part. So if I'm Peyton McBride, I should expect it out there. And you see her hips kind of get disconnected from her hands, throws her backside away from the ball. Hands go at the ball with straight arms, kind of just flinging her arms. Got to stay connected there to have a chance at hitting that ball hard.
It's going to bring up the freshman catcher, Haley Lee, 1 for 1 on the day. Had a little bloop single into left center in her first at-bat. Soft ground ball over to first. Tao makes the play, no problem, for 2 outs. We talked about being a little surprised to see Kendall Potts start in the circle today for Texas A&M. Were you surprised to see Montana Fouts get the start again?
I was. I mean, when I think of Fouts, I just think Friday starter because she's their ace and has been this far in the season. And there's still plenty of pitchers on their staff that can start games and have started games this season. Courtney Gettins is one of those that has started a lot of games, pitched a lot for them last year too. She's in her senior season, has a lot of experience, and she did pitch a little bit on Friday night too, but I was surprised to see her out there today, but she's doing a great job. Limited those walks. She did have 4 on Friday, does not have a walk yet in today's game, but we still do have some innings to play.
Kelly Martinez steps in, takes the first pitch for a ball. Martinez 0 for 1 on the day, hitting 197 on the season, and you said it has not had any walks today. Montana Fouts came into this series with only 11 walks on the season, had 4 on Friday, but couldn't help but look at that strikeout number 2. She had 10 on Friday against Texas A&M.
You know, I thought that home run in the SFA game, the 15-inning game, would have kind of propelled Martinez to get a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more confidence to get going, but still feeling like she needs a little bit of confidence in the box.
She is 0 for 5 on the weekend, finds herself down in the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Soft ground ball back to Fouts. Makes the play, no problem. 3 up, 3 down. Alabama will try to add to their lead when we come back. Wednesday, SEC Inside gives you an all-access pass to the SEC Gymnastics Championship for never-before-seen footage and sounds. It all starts at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, right here on the SEC Network and the ESPN app. Speaking of gymnastics, you were a gymnast, weren't you?
I wish. No, I was on the dive team. Does that count?
It kind of does. I feel like that translates.
A little bit. Had to throw a little bit of full, a half twist, you know.
You did it all.
Forward somersault, pike position.
That's very gymnastic.
Except I'm diving into the water, which has a little bit more cushion than the ground.
Kendall Potts trying to hang on to this only 1-run deficit. Alabama leads 2-1 as we head into the 5th. It'll be Skylar Wallace to start things off. She drew a walk in her first at-bat. And Tori, here we are, day 3 of the weekend. How do you feel as a player in the 3rd game of a series, especially when you're in the SEC fighting for your life every single weekend?
I think mentally, as well as attempts a bunt there, misses through it, but mentally you're drained, but physically, man, you wake up after the 2nd game sometimes and you just feel like you've been hit by a tractor, honestly. It's really tough to throw your body around game after game and in a row so many times, and then as the season goes on, you do it consistently. It can be very tough, but that's where you have to make sure you're taking care of your body, cold tubbing, rehab, preparing, but that's why you do so much work in the off-season to make sure your cardio's in check, even though we don't do a ton of running around here, but you're lifting weights, you're building that stamina throughout the off-season, and that's what makes it so crucial for you to do that in the off-season so you can be prepared for this moment.
Wallace, after attempting that bunt, has not showed it again and now works the count to 3 balls, 1 strike. The freshman has been very impressive on the year so far. Fouls this one back for strike number 2. Well, and you talked about just the offseason and the grind and how tough that can be, but how important it is, because you're right. You know, you look out there and think, I get to go play softball. It's, it's something I've been doing forever and it's fun and, but it truly is, especially when you're on the road. I can imagine too, just the fatigue that sets in.
Travel definitely catches up to you, and especially if there's a time change like some of the SEC schools that you will travel to.
Rise ball misses. Wallace is able to lay off, and the leadoff runner for Alabama is on with a walk. Wallace's second walk of the day.
2 full counts, 2 walks.
That'll bring up the 9-hole hitter, center fielder Alyssa Brown. Brown popped up in her first at-bat. Kendall Potts even, 33 balls and 33 strikes for a total of 66 pitches. Wallace with a big jump over at first base, and no one was there to cover, so Lee did not make the throw, but a really large jump.
And it's tough because of who's up to bat. Wallace does have the ability to steal, but Brown has the ability to play that small game, so Martinez has to play in a little bit, restricting her from going to the back of the bag like you normally would when a runner's at first and they're attempting a bunt. Make it a little bit more sneaky if you can come behind the bag where the runner can't see you. But if the runner can see you, you're in front of her, it makes it easier for them to get back to the base and beat you there.
Wallace does have 9 stolen bases on the season, so speed at first and speed at the plate for the Crimson Tide. The bunt is down. Klingler will make the throw over to first in time for the out, but a nice sac bunt by Alyssa Brown to move Wallace into scoring position.
And just a great bunt right there. A lot of times lefties get ahead of themselves when they're moving through the box and attempting to make that or get that bunt down. And she did a great job of making sure she had it down before she was running to first. You'll see just makes sure, watches it all the way down, almost watches it go into Klingler's glove right there and hustles down to first, but she doesn't need to be safe. That wasn't her objective there.
Top of the order up now for Alabama as Kaylee Tao steps in. Tao had a single back in the second that Alabama tried to score on. Maddie Morgan getting thrown out at home. Tao also with the solo home run to start off the ball game. But still, the number that just pops out to me in Kaylee Tao's stats, 37 walks. And just the discipline that she has at the plate, it makes her so hard to get out.
And that's why you see that 579 on base percentage. I'll take a leadoff hitter that can get on base.
And yeah, it's interesting that you say that because you look at Tao, she has 0 stolen bases on the season. Typically a leadoff hitter has a ton of speed. They might lead the team in stolen bases. Here, and I'm not saying she's not fast or doesn't have decent speed, but no stolen bases. But because she has the ability to get on base, she makes such a good leadoff hitter. Lifted out into right field. Smith back at the warning track, but she will make the catch. Tagging is Wallace, so she will move over to third. And here she comes home. Martinez got caught holding onto the ball. Skylar Wallace with a heads-up base play right there. And that is a huge, huge play for Alabama.
You cannot get sleeping holding the ball. You have to get the ball in, and she's in the grass when she's holding that ball. So if a runner can take advantage of that, especially with someone with Wallace's speed, just a long fly, which Wallace no problem tagging up on this fly ball to right field. And then Martinez just is holding it. Wallace knows she's too far to make a throw right there. Not even close, and Lee doesn't even catch that ball.
Yeah, the throw was late and wide. Lee unable to catch the ball, and Kelly Martinez just kind of got sleeping out there. As you mentioned, Wallace wasn't very far off of third base, but she knows how fast she is, and she knows the kind of throw that Martinez would have had to make. It would have had to have been perfect. And so now Alabama with the 3-1 lead. Swing and a miss from KB's sides, evens the count, 1 ball, 1 strike.
And when you put that in perspective, your pitcher's working so hard to get outs. That would have left a runner on third base with 2 outs, which I'd take the chances there. 2 outs, it'd take a hit for them to score that run, and you just kind of let them sneak one past you. That's a mental error right there that you cannot afford.
Ground ball over to Sarton. The throw is not in time, so a speedy Sides with the infield single. First action we've seen for Riley Sarton at shortstop, getting the start today there. And this ball gets past Bailey Klingler, and then just too much speed from Sides.
Yeah, just a ball really deep in the hole, and Sides strikes it pretty well, but just the placement of where Sarton fielded the ball and the fact that Sides is a slapper, so she's already got a starting movement towards first base, so it makes it difficult to make that play when they are in the hole, and just great back control right there by Sides to know where to place it.
So that brings up the very dangerous bat of Bailey Hemphill. She is 0 for 2 on the day. Beautiful changeup right there by Kendall Potts for the first strike of the at-bat.
And I like that Potts hasn't thrown the changeup very often today. I think yesterday we saw her throw it earlier in the game, and now she's hiding it from the hitters. Even though they've already seen it, it makes it really hard when you've already seen someone 2 times and you haven't seen that change of speed. And then she throws it in there and is keeping it low, keeping it around the strike zone, makes it tough to pick up and identify and change your timing of the pitch.
Tries to go up and in to Hemphill, who lays off. So 3 balls, 1 strike to Bailey Hemphill. The junior is hitting .343 on the season. Has had home runs in both games of the series. Lays off the rise ball, will head down to first. KB Sides heads to second on the 2-out walk.
I don't think that's a terrible decision there. I know it probably wasn't intentional, but you have to look at it as, okay, leader in RBIs, not a terrible decision to walk her. But then you look at the rest of the lineup. This pitch just going to be up in the zone. Hemphill thought about taking it, but kept her bat on her shoulder. Yeah, doesn't look like she went around, but then you look up at who's up to bat. Claire Jenkins with a home run earlier in this game. It's kind of like pick your poison.
Swinging at the first pitch, lifted out into left field. Blake Ann Fritsch will get under it and make the catch. So Alabama on a mental error by Texas A&M. They are able to get 1 across in the top of the 5th. We'll see if the Aggies can answer back when we come back after this. Texas A&M has the leadoff runner on.
She's taking her time. I know that one hurt. Just an inside pitch. Catches her on the backside elbow. So oftentimes you'll see them wear that Evo shield on the front elbow because you're supposed to turn back into towards the catcher. But right there, just leaving her body very vulnerable for that spot. I know that's tender there. Never want to get hit on the elbow.
But does her job, finds a way on, and that's going to bring up the top of the order for the Aggies. Kelby Fortenberry shows bunt, pulls back, but is called a strike. Fortenberry 0 for 2 on the day. Had a productive last at-bat, though, with Smith at second. She was able to get a ground ball over to the right side of the field and move Smith over to third. Smith would eventually score. That is the 1 run for Texas A&M this ballgame.
Situational hitting is huge, and successful teams, you will see them get the hitting done that they need to do. If they need to put down a sac bunt, they will. If they'll hit a sac fly, you just saw Alabama. It wouldn't technically be a sac fly, but a long ball to advance a runner, and then the runner takes advantage of a mental lapse and gets a run on the board.
Fortenberry taking a look down to Coach Evans, because you really have seen her switch what she's going to do. We've seen her show bunt and then stay in there and hit away.
We talked about that triple threat power that Fortenberry does have, and you'll see the outfield is playing pretty deep on her. She is a lefty. A lot of people would say, oh, she's a slapper, like let's scoot in, but Fortenberry does have that pop to her bat. She can hit a gap, she can hit a home run. So, I mean, that's a lot of respect there from your outfielders if they're playing that deep on you.
Hitters count, fouls this one back to the screen. So now a full count, 3 balls, 2 strikes. Morgan Smith at first. And we saw Alabama's defense get burned by Blake Ann Fritch earlier in this series. Another lefty that you think typical slapper, maybe doesn't have a lot of power, and she got it right in between Maris Schroeder and Alyssa Brown, and they had to go chasing that one. So I think Alabama's outfield knows that these lefties for Texas A&M, they can definitely find the gap. So a walk for Kelby Fortenberry, and Texas A&M now with 2 runners on and no outs in the bottom of the 5th.
Coach Evans going to call everybody up as Stephanie Prothro takes a visit out to the mound, talk with Montana Fouts. Just trying to regroup here with your pitcher.
And that's the first walk that we've seen today from Montana Fouts. We mentioned she had 4 in Friday's ball game, but she was still more dominant in Friday's ball game. I think with the 10 strikeouts, she does have 3 on the day, but Coach Prothro out there just kind of walking her through what's coming up next. And what's coming up next is really the heart of this Texas A&M lineup.
And I think, too, just to be able to regroup, talking, it looks like she's motioning to that outside pitch that she's pretty consistently staying at, and I would say half her strikes, half her balls, and probably used to getting those pitches, but probably just saying, hey, bring them in just a couple inches, not anything too big. You don't want to make the pitch too sweet, but also knowing that Blake Ann Fritch did burn them, but the Alabama outfield is going to be in no doubles. They know that Fortenberry is going to be the tying run, Fritch is going to be the go-ahead run. So they definitely have that in the back of their head. They don't want to let anything get past them as an outfield.
Big opportunity for Texas A&M right here. Fritch is actually going to show bunt, pulls back for ball 1. Corners were crashing for Alabama, both Maddie Morgan and Kaylee Tao trying to get to that ball very quickly. Fritch is able to lay the bunt down.
You have to make sure this bunt isn't too hard to where they can get the lead out at third base.
Pulls back, but is called a strike. Evens the count, 1 ball, 1 strike. We've seen that a few times today from Texas A&M hitters, showing that bunt and pulling back at something that they think is a ball, and then Fouts getting the call.
And you'll see the middle infielders staying about even with the baseline, and then the corners will be in, crashing on this bunt attempt. Good. Everyone trying to be in position. The rotation, shortstop will move over to third base to cover that bag. Second base will moving over to first base as your corners are crashing. And then center fielder likely will come and cover second base if needed.
Fritch fouls this one back. So now with 2 strikes, Fritch most likely will not be bunting. We did see Coach Murphy try to get a bunt down for Alabama earlier in this series, even with 2 strikes. But most likely right here, Fritch just still trying to have a productive at-bat, trying to move these runners. Fights this one off, back to the netting.
And you'll see Alabama pitching staff is just going to stay on the outside half. They know Fritch is a lefty. Normally they stay outside on lefties anyways, but they want to funnel that ball to the left side so they can easily step on a base, throw it somewhere else, try to get 2.
She rips this one down the left field line, but it is foul. So a really nice swing right there by Fritch. But she will come back to take another hack.
Talked about her being a lefty on that swing. The ball is just going to slice away. Starts, looks like it's going to be fair, and slices away towards the left field fence. Does end up foul, but a good barrel on that ball.
And you can see how far Claire Jenkins is shaded over. I mean, they are completely closing that 5-6 hole, trying to prevent Fritch from getting it into that gap between the third baseman and the shortstop.
And I know she can see that as a hitter because she is a slapper. She is one to analyze the defense, look at where they're playing, and if I'm Blake Ann Fritsch, I'm thinking outside pitch, throw my barrel, try to get it up the middle.
And look at Maddie Morgan. Look how far back the third baseman is for Alabama. They're going to ring her up, though. They won't have to worry about playing it defensively because Montana Fouts with the 4th strikeout on the day.
Just a tough break there. That's a pitch you should be swinging all the way, almost right down the middle, about thigh high. That's a pitch you want to hit, especially when they're shaded the way they were. That's the perfect opportunity to take that ball right back up the middle and maybe get an RBI.
So 2 free passes. Morgan Smith getting hit by a pitch, and then Kelby Fortenberry finding her way on with a walk. Blake Ann Fritsch with, and that's what we call an unproductive out.
That's just a lack of execution right there. An execution for a sac bunt is the very first pitch and get it down on the ground. And if you can't do it in 2 strikes and then on top of that can't produce with a swing, it makes it really tough when all you're trying to do is move a runner. You're not asking to get a hit. You're not asking your players to do anything spectacular. Just square around in the box, put the ball down on the ground, and move your runners.
1-1 to Klingler, misses low for ball 2. Klingler 1 for 2 on the day, did have a single back in the 3rd inning, which scored Morgan Smith.
She'll try to do it again here.
She rips this one, but it's right at Skylar Wallace, who makes the catch and then flips it over to second base, trying to catch Morgan Smith off the bag. An errant throw, but it won't harm Alabama as Smith stays put.
And this is a shot off the bat, similar to the last one, going oppo, going with that pitch. Good job by Wallace to know where her runners are at. If I'm Smith, I see that ball immediately off the glove, I'm taking off because it was in no man's land. All 3, left field, center field, and shortstop were all running to that ball. But I think if you got to jump on it, you would be safe at 3rd right now.
But she does stay put. So runners still at 1st and 2nd for Texas A&M. It's going to bring up senior shortstop Riley Sarton swinging at the first pitch. Wallace on the short hop. So Wallace with 2 great plays at second base. And Texas A&M threatened but was unable to score in the bottom of the 5th. Alabama's up to bat when we come back. Well, it's a beautiful day for softball here at Davis Diamond, the new home for Texas A&M. And we spoke with head coach Patrick Murphy for Alabama and asked him, how important is it to play on the road for this particular series, because you have to come back here for the SEC tournament?
It's huge to know the atmosphere that you're playing in, and not only the atmosphere, but the surface, the playing surface. It's different wherever you go. Every team has a different specialty. We talked earlier in the broadcast about how Georgia is known for a very hard infield, and there's just so many different characteristics of each field. And so being able to play, understanding how the ball bounces on the dirt, how it plays off the wall, how much room in foul territory you have, there's so many different aspects that you want to know, and getting to play in it is so much different than just getting a 1 hour practice that you would have at the SEC tournament.
And that's what Coach Murphy told us before the game. He said, everybody loves to play at home, but it is nice that we have the opportunity to come here. Plus, it is the nicest stadium in college softball right now. And so the ability to come and play in the confines of Davis Diamond, and then, as you mentioned, Tori, to get a chance to see what the field and what the surface is going to be like before coming back in May. Maris Schroeder leads things off for Alabama, shows bunt, pulls back for ball 1, evens the count. And you got to play here for a very small amount of time last season, but as you've now seen, and it wasn't even completely done, but now that you have gotten to see the facility, truly in its glory, what are some of your favorite parts about the stadium?
Man, that's a tough one, just because I did get to play on it, but only for a very short amount of time, and the whole stadium wasn't completely finished. But, the concourse is a great aspect. It just really enhances the atmosphere. It makes you feel like you're at a ball game. Just have some peanuts, eat a pretzel. It's just that ball game atmosphere that you really enjoy growing up. And, a big one as a hitter is just the indoor facility, just having somewhere that's covered and that you can play music and just hit in a cage and not have to worry about, is it raining? Is it dark outside? I can't see the ball. So at the old complex, there was really, really old lights and very small lights, so we couldn't hit after dark, and it just makes it much easier for hitters to get in there and put in the work.
2-2 pitch to Schroeder, ground ball to the left side. Starton will make the throw in time for out number 1. And that's what, speaking with head coach Joe Evans for Texas A&M, she mentioned. She goes, it's great that they have a place where they can go hit and they can get in the extra reps. And, a lot of times she'll leave here late at night and see the light on and knows that there's someone, at least 1 or 2 girls in there getting some extra cuts. And the hitting facility, obviously a big part of it. And she also mentioned the training facility, or where the athletic trainers can do treatment for the players. And it's right here in the stadium. And at the old place, it wasn't a far walk, but you did have to go to a different building to get treatment and visit with the athletic trainers. And so just the convenience of having everything under one roof is probably her favorite part of the whole thing as well.
And another word I would use to describe that is just easy accessibility. You have the cages there, you can just walk to them, and if you want to do a cold tub, hot tub, taking care of your body is so important. We talked about that earlier, and just having it right there. And there's been plenty of times in the old field where, like I said, we couldn't hit after dark, and you see here a video of the inside of the hitting facility at Davis Diamond, and you just have covered, you have windows. If it's a nice day, you can pull up the windows, enjoy the breeze, and just have your own space to be able to go in there and really get some work done.
That pitch just misses low, so 3 balls, no strikes to the catcher, Reagan Dykes. Dykes 0 for 2 on the day. The only strikeout victim for Kendall Potts. Going back to that last inning where Texas A&M got 2 free passes to start off the inning, and then they were unable to cash in on that opportunity, you have to think that's going to be an inning they look back at if they don't end up winning this ball game.
And I talked about it in the 3rd inning when they did score that run. That would have been backbreaking if they didn't score that leadoff double. And with 2 free passes, it might as well be the same thing as his leadoff double.
Fly ball out into center. Fortenberry makes the catch for out number 2.
And I think that's the difference that we see between Alabama and A&M is Alabama is taking advantage of those free passes. And they had 11 yesterday, and the score just, you saw it rocket away from A&M and didn't really have a chance to come back, and that's because they got runners on by walks, and then they capitalized by getting hits and scoring them.
Maddie Morgan steps in, 0 for 2 on the day, looking for her first hit of this ball game. Takes the first pitch for a strike.
Potts can use that changeup strategically the way she has been today, I think it's going to make her so much more effective in the long run and really make her hard stuff look a little bit harder and then really fool them with that off-speed change.
There it is again. That one, though, gets away from her, misses up.
I'm a fan of the back-to-back change calls. I
agree.
Cara Dill is very good about not being afraid to throw it. If your pitcher can throw it in there for a strike, I've seen people like Peyton McBride, who has very good control of that off-speed pitch, throw it 3 times in a row and it strike a hitter out. And how defeating to strike out on 3 changeups, but just have to make sure your pitcher's throwing it for the strike. That's going to be the biggest thing, is can they get in the strike zone and do it multiple times in a row.
And where is the worst place to miss with a changeup?
Up. If you miss up, you're dead meat. That's my favorite pitch to hit, because as a changeup, if you know it's coming, which most times you don't, but you can always guess if they throw it 2 times, maybe they'll throw it again here.
Morgan with good contact right there, but foul.
A lot of hitters will think fast, react slow. But for me, I'm really weird in this way, but I would think change, react fast, because I knew my hands could catch up. But if I was already ahead of it, there was no chance of making contact with that changeup. So I thought the other way around, and it seemed to help me.
Morgan gets a piece of this one. It'll spin and stay foul as Peyton McBride picks it up down the first base line. That spin on the ball, Maddie Morgan didn't take off right away and then realized it was almost looking like it could spin back fair. And so she kind of took a couple steps and realized McBride was going to pick it up in foul territory. This one back to the left side of the field. Bailey Klingler makes the out for out number 3. So 3 up, 3 down. Texas A&M has some work to do as we head to the bottom of the 6th. A big reason for today's success for Alabama is the defense by shortstop Claire Jenkins.
And Claire Jenkins is playing her first season at shortstop. We talked about this earlier, and I'm so impressed with her lateral movement at third base. You're so used to going back and forth, forward, backwards on the ball, and at shortstop you really have to change going laterally side to side, and making those plays is not easy, and Claire Jenkins makes it look that way.
Texas A&M running out of time to try and tie this ball game up. Danny Elder steps in. She is 0 for 2 on the day with 2 strikeouts. And 3 out of the 4 strikeouts that Montana Fouts has had have been strikeouts looking. And that just goes to show how it's just, I guess, hard to read what she's going to come at you with.
Well, I think a lot of those strikeouts have been that low rise, and when you see that rise spin, you think that the ball is going to break up, and when it doesn't, you're kind of frozen, and then it's too late to swing.
Elder down in the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Elder, one of the hottest bats in this lineup coming into today's ball game, but so far Fouts has had her number. This one fouled and off into the screen. Here's the 1-2. Misses low. Elder able to lay back, evens the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes. This one popped up out of play. Oh, a nice catch in the stands.
Still waiting on our moment to shine up here.
Anytime a foul ball comes back towards the booth, Tori is like up and ready to go, which, hey, I'm all about it. Especially if it's coming at me. Feel free.
Once a player, always a player, I guess.
Still no glove, though. I told you to bring your glove.
Couldn't lug it in here.
Got her again, so the 3rd time to stat bat. This time she gets it through the 5-6 hole for a base hit. And a 1-out single for Peyton McBride.
Just a good job of understanding the goal right here. The goal in this inning is not to take big swings and hit home runs. The goal is just to get base runners on, and Peyton McBride does a great job keeping her barrel flat through the zone and just going with a pitch. Base runners are what they need, and Peyton McBride made it happen.
We're going to have a pinch runner over at first base. It's going to be the freshman, number 12, Maddie Yatzlaw. Typically the first runner off the bench in these situations. Great speed at first for the Aggies. It's going to bring up Haley Lee to bat.
And we can always see how important a base runner is when Coach Evans decides to put Maddie Yatzlaw in, because she is one of the quickest players on this team and normally the first one off the bench, like you said, and shows how big that run is right there and what it means to Texas A&M to get it across the board.
Lee has been pretty quiet on the weekend. She is 1 for 2 on the day, did have a single back in the 2nd inning. And we see that rise ball thrown to Haley Lee a lot. And you talked about it in one of the earlier broadcasts that she loves that pitch for both better and worse.
Yeah, I mean, rise balls are probably the hardest pitch to hit because they're moving up and out of the zone. And if you swing down on the ball, it's hard to just back up on a ball rather than a drop ball. If you swing up, you can easily try to go back down and go get it. But rise ball coming out of the zone, and Haley Lee likes to take some big hacks at that one. Being a power hitter, that is a ball that will get out of the yard a lot easier than a drop ball. Starts high, ends high, so it'll be able to fly, but sometimes not going in her favor.
Fouts ahead of the count. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And today, from what I've seen from Fouts, just complete control over where she wants to put these pitches.
And I talked about this on the Friday game that she did start. She has such good control of all of her pitches. She doesn't have one pitch that she can hit in every spot. She can hit every pitch in every location.
Off-speed pitch right there, which we really haven't seen a whole lot from Fouts, but Lee able to at least get a piece of it to stay alive.
And we talked about the changeup, and Potts kind of hiding that changeup as well, and it makes a difference when you hide your changeup and then you get into close situations like you're in right now with runners on and not as many outs as you would like. It's tougher for a hitter to adjust to that pitch.
This one ripped into center field. Alyssa Brown, though, has a beat on it, and she will make the catch. Yatzlaw will head back to first, and what looked like it could have been a double, possibly, Alyssa Brown just chases down with no problem.
And that's the beautiful thing about having speedy outfielders that get great reads. They take away so many extra base hits. But if you're Haley Lee, you can't be defeated about that swing or that at-bat right there. A great swing on a ball probably if any other outfielder was out there, it would be a double off the wall. So you have to think about that at bat going into the future. I struck the ball well, would have been a hit, but the game is going to pay you back. So that flare that she had earlier in the game got down for a hit, and that one unfortunately got caught.
Pinch hitter Abby Smith will swing at the first pitch. It is not caught. Yatza will slide into third safely, and Abby Smith finds herself at second base. So a sneaky pinch hitter right there that we barely recognized, and then she takes a hack at the first pitch. A huge moment for Abby Smith.
And a pinch runner we often see, a pinch hitter we often see in Abby Smith, and just not wasting any time. And as a pinch hitter, you can get in there thinking, I'm going to see a pitch, I'm going to wait for one. But whenever she gets in and takes a hack, expect the ball to be in the grass, just taking advantage of the opportunity, getting put in. And then we will see a pinch runner go in for her in Tadria Cini. But a huge moment for Abby Smith right there. And they'll see if Morgan Smith can get one across the board.
For those of you scoring at home, it was ruled a double down the left field line. So a ton of speed on the base path for Texas A&M. Runners at second and third with the freshman Morgan Smith up to bat. Smith is 1 for 1 on the day, doubled down the left field line back in the third inning, and then was hit by a pitch in her last at bat. Huge opportunity for Texas A&M right here. And what a moment for the freshman.
It is a big moment. I was going to mention just the maturity that you have to have during this at-bat. Runners at second and third, you're thinking, I'm going to be the one. I'm going to get a hit and tie this game up. But just do what you've always been doing. You can't make any at-bat bigger than another one, because then you start to put pressure on yourself, and sometimes pressure doesn't always go your way, and it can be hard when you're a young player to understand, I'm not trying to win the ball game right here. Just do my job the same way I've been doing every single at-bat. Morgan Smith has had a great day at the plate and just getting on base, and needs to continue to do the same thing here.
Look at Abby Smith after that big double down the left field line. Maris Schroeder made a great attempt at the ball, actually had it in her glove, and then it looks like she just kind of rolled over it with her body. And you can see head coach Joe Evans right there talking to the freshman and saying, I'm sure exactly what you just said. Don't make this any bigger than it is. We just need you to find a way on base.
Saying don't do too much right here, and gives her a high five. Just a little bit of a confidence boost, knowing you're the one that they want up right now. You always have to think, it has to be me right here. It has to be. But then you can't let yourself get too anxious, too excited to think, I have to do it. The world's not going to end if you do it. And I think that's what a lot of players think. If I don't do this right now, it's over. We lose. And that's not the case. There's still outs left in this ball game and chances for other people to get it done.
Fouts misses on the inside part of the plate. So now a hitter's count for Morgan Smith. 3 balls, 1 strike. A dangerous hitter in Kelby Fortenberry on deck.
And you have to understand who's coming up behind you. Kelby Fortenberry, they're probably not going to want to pitch to her, so they're not going to try to walk you. They're going to come in here with a strike.
And she does, right at the top of the zone. Beautiful pitch right there by Fouts. Where do you think, does Fouts go back to the inside on this next pitch, or do you think she works the outside part of the plate?
I would go back inside. Morgan Smith a little tentative to swing at those inside pitches. Looks like her hips aren't quite getting through, so we'll see what she decides to do.
Full count, 2 outs. Here's the payoff pitch. Fouled. Texas A&M's dugout cheering on the freshman.
That outside pitch right there could be a bait pitch, trying to get her on her toes, leaning over the plate, and then jam her back inside. Like I said, game within a game.
Popped up on the infield. It's going to fall. 1 run will score. Tadria Cini will stay put at third. And so a bloop single. You had Fouts, Morgan, and Jenkins all colliding together. And right now, Jenkins pointing at Tadria Cini, who's standing on third base. And I think there might have been some contact.
I don't know if they have a case. I mean, the bloop is clearly way in front. Jenkins did not have a play on that. Absolutely no play. Morgan was the one that was going for that ball all the way. And I think Jenkins actually stopped to make sure she made contact, which is what you want to do as a defender. But I don't think that there was any way Claire Jenkins was going to make a play on this ball, regardless if Cindy touched her or not.
So the umpires will gather and talk about this. And now they're going to head over and have a discussion with Coach Murphy. Anthony Small there, the third base umpire, explaining the call and explaining what he saw during that play. So if it stands, we'll have runners at first and third. The obstruction rule, it's so subjective, and it's probably one of the toughest rules really to call in NCAA softball.
And we saw it a couple years ago with plays at the plate, but I think it's become such a discussion in the field now. This happened with A&M against LSU in one of the games. Kelby Fortenberry was running from second to third. Amber Surratt was fielding a ground ball, made contact with Fortenberry, and Fortenberry was actually called out. And a big thing about that rule is it becomes a dead ball. So runners will retreat back to the base that they were at before the play. But I just don't think Claire Jenkins had a play on this. Too far in front, and the umpires will say so as well.
Maddie Morgan did look a little shaken up after that. She dove for the ball, but the play will stand. So now runners at first and third. Texas A&M did score a run, so Alabama now up 3-2. The tying run at third, the go-ahead run at first. Kylie George pinch running over at first base for Morgan Smith. And Kelby Fortenberry, the top of the order, is up for Texas A&M. You know, we're talking about the pressure for Texas A&M right now. What about if you're Montana Fouts in the circle for Alabama?
I just think she's been in this situation so many times before. I really don't think it's going to affect her. She's going to stay within herself, make her pitches, and let her defense do the work because they've been doing such a great job of that all season. When I take a look back at that play, I think, honestly, A&M had a chance to get Cindy across the board when they dove. Jenkins and Morgan dove at that ball, and it kind of wandered off into no man's land. And if Cindy would have been on it, trusting her instincts, I think she definitely, with her speed, could have been across home plate.
Fortenberry fouls that one back. Now they count 1 ball, 2 strikes. Taking a look at Fortenberry's numbers, especially with runners in scoring position, hitting .667 on the year. So you talk about a clutch hitter, and this is one of them. And I think if you're Texas A&M, this is who you want at bat right now.
Has a ton of RBIs and is at the top of the lineup. So that just shows throughout the game how she's producing.
Here's the 1-2. Ground ball to the right side. It'll hop off of Wallace. Now Kylie George will get in a rundown, but a run did score for Texas A&M. George will be tagged out, but Texas A&M does tie the ball game on that hit by Kelby Fortenberry. We are tied 3-3. This ball, Wallace just unable to handle it. So the run scores. We're all tied up. Stay tuned. Well, this is how the last inning ended. It was going to be an error on Skylar Wallace, but then Kylie George trying to be a little too aggressive, Tori.
Skylar Wallace just losing sight of that ball as George crosses paths with her, but does a great job to recover and see George trying to take third base, picking it up, making a throw over to Morgan and getting in a rundown, and ultimately they will get her out, but A&M did squeeze a run to tie the game.
So Wallace will actually step in first in this inning. So Texas A&M is able to tie up the ball game. Tadria Sinney scoring on that error. Wallace 2 walks on the day. Takes the first pitch for a strike. Rips this one to second, but Kelly Martinez with the snag. So a nice defensive play by the second baseman for Texas A&M for the first out of the inning.
And Wallace trying to redeem herself there, making great contact with the ball. An absolute shot But unfortunately, it is right at Martinez, and that's out number 1 for the Aggies.
The dugout happy with that play from Kelly Martinez. Now the 9-hole hitter, Alyssa Brown. And I think this is the first time Brown has been up. It is with no one on base. She is
a blessing and a curse.
And all of your focus obviously is now on Brown, but she is so fast that anything on the ground, you have got to be quick. Potts living on the outside part of the plate. 2 balls, no strikes.
Something I love when slappers are up to bat is when you just jam them inside, because they're so used to seeing that outside pitch. Most slappers just know, okay, I'm going to see a screwball, another screwball probably. And so sometimes when pitchers that throw pretty hard come inside on the inside part of the plate, it really does jam up the lefties and makes it hard for them to get their barrel around there.
That one misses just outside, and you talked about it in her last at-bat. You do not want to walk Alyssa Brown.
If you walk Alyssa Brown, it's almost like here's 2 bases instead of just 1, because she is so fast. You know she's going to steal. You do have a chance to throw her out, but she has in the 20s for stolen bases. That says a lot about her speed.
Yeah, 24 stolen bases on the season. She will take that pitch for a strike. Someone has thrown her out once this year. I'd have to look it up, but she's 24 for 25 on the base paths. And what we've seen this weekend is a couple of throws that have actually gotten past the Texas A&M shortstop on that steal attempt. They pop into center field, and then Alyssa Brown takes third. That one misses high, so there's that walk we were talking about. One of the fastest runners in the country on base now for Alabama.
That's a tough walk to swallow there, just because that was such a good pitch. I felt like it was pretty close to the strike zone. Actually, I thought it was in the strike zone, but the umpire disagreed right there. But like you said, cannot walk a slapper. We'll see if she decides to steal a base right here.
We'll see if she goes on the first pitch. Kaylee Tao up to bat. Runner stays put. Haley Lee getting out of that crouch quickly. This will be Lee's first time catching this weekend with Brown on base. Probably has a little bit of a stronger arm than Danny Elder.
Lee has a very strong arm. Good matchup right there. Fast runner and a strong throw.
Called strike. Brown stays put at first, and on that pitch I was watching Brown, and she takes off like she is going to steal. And it does. It looks like she's running, and she does such a good job of that, probably making the defense jump a little bit, even when she's not stealing. Tao, a great day so far, 2 for 3.
And with Brown, it makes it harder to determine when they actually are stealing when you make it game-like every single rep. And when you're leading off and you have an aggressive lead, it makes it hard for the people in the dugout who are looking and calling steal for you to help out your catcher to know when, and when they do know, it's a little late.
Beautiful off-speed pitch there by Potts. And I thought if Brown could recognize that off-speed pitch, she might take off, but she's staying put. They're definitely respecting Haley Lee behind the plate in this at-bat.
And at this point, runs are just important, so why chance it?
2-2. This one bounces. It's going to get past Lee between her legs. Brown will take off for second. And an unfortunate break right there for Haley Lee, as that ball just scooted right under her glove.
And we talked about not having to just give her that base, and right there it kind of just does the same thing as it would if it was a stolen base. Pass ball, unfortunate situation right there, but you're hoping that you can get this batter out.
It's a full count to Tao, runner at second. And that one misses up in the zone. So 2 walks in a row for Kendall Potts. And Alabama has something cooking here in the top of the 7th.
This pitch just up and away. Potts hasn't been getting much of this location here, and Tal knows that, so she's going to take that for a ball and her first walk of the day. But not a terrible situation here. Now you have a force play. Same situation we were kind of talking about with Brown a little bit earlier. You face these quicker hitters with runners on base, and even though you do have speed with Brown at second, you have Tao at first. Not a ton of speed. Still someone you respect with the wheels, but not someone where you would be overly feel that pressure when trying to make a play. But you do have a force, able to get to somewhere, possibly if it's a hard shot.
And I like that huddle right there. Riley Sarton, the senior, bringing everyone in, telling them, hey, this is what we've got. As you mentioned, Tori, runners at first and second, so you have the force at third. Brown is very fast, so you have to keep that in mind. But still a good opportunity for Texas A&M right here. However, a great opportunity for Alabama, trying to get that go-ahead run at second across the board. It's going to be KB Sides who steps in. First pitch is high, up and away for ball one. 3 runs for Alabama today. It's come on 4 hits. They did have 2 solo shots, both in the first inning. 6 free passes from Kendall Potts, and that's where Alabama has done a nice job this weekend of cashing in on those free passes. However, only 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position.
I think Alabama did a great job today of getting on the board quickly, but then they kind of fell off, put a couple zeros up on the board, 3 innings in a row. They did come back in the 5th and score another run, but their answer back stat that we talked about in Friday night's game, they just haven't answered back. And we'll see if they do in this inning.
And that was a really pretty pitch right there by Kendall Potts, but just missed low. And I'm sure you can hear the Aggie faithful not happy with the call. Brandon Bloom behind home plate for today's ball game. Sides fouls this one back to even the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Sides hitting .310 on the season with runners in scoring position. Swing and a miss. Got her on the changeup. And a big strikeout for Kendall Potts.
A huge strikeout for Kendall Potts. Throws that changeup. It is a little bit elevated in the zone, but you'll see Sides kind of slow her swing down to try to catch up with it out on that front foot, and then tries to drag that backside through the zone. To be able to hit that pitch and to hit it hard, you have to swing hard and fast. You can't slow your swing down to try to match the speed of the pitch.
Now one of the toughest outs in the country, Bailey Hemphill will step in with runners at first and second. The go-ahead run, speedy Alyssa Brown at second base. Hemphill is 0 for 2 on the day. Walked in her last at-bat. I can only imagine that Kendall Potts is going to be very careful with her right here. And I guess, Tori, the big question is, would you rather pitch to Bailey Hemphill or Claire Jenkins, who's up next?
Claire Jenkins, for sure. I mean, she already has had a home run today, so 1 hit compared to no hits. Bailey Hemphill is probably due for a hit here, and Jenkins already got her hit for the day, so I'd put my odds on pitching to Claire Jenkins.
Potts will go at her with the off speed for a strike.
And Hemphill is just someone who knows the pressure of hitting with runners in scoring position. She leads the NCAA in RBIs, and that says something about how productive she is with runners on second and third, and has a chance to do it again here.
Potts goes up in the zone again, trying to get Hemphill to chase. 3 balls, 1 strike. Haley Lee will come out into the circle to talk to her pitcher. Alabama trying to retake the lead here in the top of the 7th. Texas A&M trying to escape this inning. The Aggies do have 2 outs. Here's the 3-1 to Hemphill. Ball 4, and not a bad walk right there.
Not at all. If there's a base open, I would just go ahead and let her have it. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I'd rather face Claire Jenkins over Bailey Hemphill, and that's not a knock to Claire Jenkins, but Bailey Hemphill has shown time and time again how successful she is with runners in scoring position.
Coach Murphy going over to talk to the home plate umpire, Brandon Bloom. We are going to have a pinch runner over at first base for Hemphill. It's going to be number 9, Taylor Clark, running over at first base. And if you're Alabama, Tori, you don't want just 1 run right here. You want to get as many runs across so you have that cushion going into the bottom of the 7th.
No lead is safe, especially the way A&M has bounced back today. They've been catching a lot of lucky breaks, and Alabama wants to prepare for that, get as many insurance runs as needed.
The shortstop, Claire Jenkins, steps in. She's got bases loaded, 2 outs. First offering from Potts is a strike. The speedy Alyssa Brown at third, Kaylee Tao at second, and the pinch runner Clark at first for Alabama. Fouls this one back to the screen, so Potts now quickly ahead in this count. No balls, 2 strikes.
0-2, you have to be careful right here. You cannot give her anything too sweet to hit. You want to nibble around the strike zone. Don't go right at it. That's the last thing you want to do with runners on. You have to be smart here if you're Potts.
Hemphill cheering on her teammate. Got her to swing at a rise ball. She's able to get a piece of it, though, to stay alive. As Tori mentioned, Jenkins did have a home run in her first at-bat back in the first inning. Has flown out twice since then. Flew out to center and then to left. This one off of Jenkins' shin, it looked like, or some part of her leg. She's going to kind of walk that one off.
Just taking a look at this one, just gets on the outside part of the ball. Ow, fouls that right into her shin. It's such a sensitive spot, and it lingers. It's one of those lingering pains where you're kind of limping around trying to get over it, and everyone's just kind of looking at you, waiting for you to get better and get back in the box. But, man, that hurts really bad.
Off speed, misses up.
That change up in the zone, you'll see it out of the back of the hand. This pitch is too high, though. For an 0-2 pitch, you want to keep that change up low. Bounce it in the dirt. I would much rather have one bouncing in the dirt. It's harder to pick up. High in the zone makes it way too easy to get a hold of.
Jenkins just gets a piece of that one. So, Tori, going back to the ball that she fouled off of her shin, a lot of hitters you see wear some kind of protection. Why wouldn't a hitter wear some type of protection like Claire Jenkins?
I mean, if you don't hit the outside of the ball, you won't hit it into yourself. So, I mean, that was always my goal. My dad just hounded that into me when I was little. If you hit the inside part of the ball, you won't hit yourself. So,
here's the 1-2. Swing and a miss! Strike 3 and a huge strikeout for Kendall Potts. Texas A&M escapes the bases loaded threat from Alabama. The Aggies have a chance to win it as we head to the bottom of the 7th. Welcome back. We are headed into the bottom of the 7th, and it is all tied up. 3-3 Texas A&M with a chance to win it here in the bottom of the 7th. The bright spot for the Aggies has got to be the freshman Morgan Smith, 2 for 2 on the day. Plenty of production by Alabama as well. And Tori, I mean, you're talking about not only a win over the third-ranked team in the country, but Alabama is undefeated. They have not dropped a game all season, and this is a huge opportunity for Texas A&M.
I think the biggest thing that it would do for them is just give them a little bit confidence boost. And losing the first 2 games in run rule fashion, it can get your morale down and low, and coming back and being able to put up a great fight and then come out with a win at the end is going to be huge for the program, something that they can take along with them, and then also goes down as a quality win in the books later in the season when the committee starts talking about RPI and quality wins and seeding. That can make a difference in where you're going or if you're hosting a regional.
Blake Ann Fritch, the junior left fielder. She is 1 for 3 on the day. And Fouts way behind in the count, 3 balls, no strikes.
All you want is base runners right now if you're A&M, and no green light here for sure, but just in general. But it'll be interesting to see if Blake Ann Fritch does get on. Will Coach Evans bunt Bailey Klingler?
The 3-0 misses low, so a leadoff walk for Blake Ann Fritch. And Texas A&M has their first runner on of the inning.
These are my favorite types of games. I'm so excited.
Well, and this is what you expect, and this is where the last 2 games were lacking. The competitiveness from Texas A&M. Alabama just got these huge leads and then never looked back. And here, I mean, it has just been a battle all afternoon.
And it's so unfortunate that it takes until Sunday for this to happen. Most series that happened in LSU for A&M, they waited till the 3rd game to take a win from them, or even just kind of play a quality game. They were missing a lot of the good quality pitches and outs and situational hitting, and same thing against Auburn. Even though they ended up getting run ruled in that game 3, it was a tale of 2 games pretty much, and they played great until the 6th inning, and then that's when the wheels fell off. And it's just so unfortunate that A&M can't come out and play this way Friday and Saturday and Sunday, because I think the series would be a whole lot different story if A&M came out and played this way on Friday.
And that is going to be it for the freshman Montana Fouts. Coming into the circle for Alabama, it's going to be the junior right-handed pitcher Sarah Cornell.
And Cornell, we did see her yesterday's game. She started that game, pitched 4 innings with 4 hits and 2 walks, and then you also see 4 strikeouts. But A&M seemed to handle her a little bit better than they handled Fouts on Friday, and A&M should have a game plan with her, already seeing her 2-3 times through the lineup. They expect to see a lot of east to west, not quite as hard as Fouts.
Well, this is how we got here today. Kaylee Tao would start off the ball game with a solo shot. Claire Jenkins also in the 1st inning with a solo home run. So Alabama with that early 2-0 lead. For Texas A&M, it was Bailey Klingler who was able to get that first run across. Morgan Smith able to score for the Aggies. Then in the 6th, it was Morgan Smith with this little blooper right in the middle of all the infielders for Alabama. That would score a run, and then the error of Skylar Wallace would allow Tawdria Cini to score, and Texas A&M plenty to dance and celebrate.
I think we're definitely seeing a different Texas A&M team today than we've seen in the Friday and Saturday game, just coming out, taking advantage of their opportunities that they have, having productive at-bats, getting situational hits, and making something happen. And I think, too, you rely so much on just hits and did I square the ball up and hit it as hard as I can, but then you see just the little nuances of this game. They hit a blooper in the infield and it went down as an RBI single, so things will fall in your favor if you actually put some effort and passion into the game. Things will go your way.
Bailey Klingler does square to bunt, pulls back for ball 1. That was the big question, is if Blake Ann Fritch is able to get to first, do you bunt Bailey Klingler? And so far it looks like Coach Evans has decided to do so.
I think absolutely bunt Bailey Klingler, because you have Riley Sarton coming up behind you, and the most important thing is not risking not getting the runner over. You need to be able to get Blake Ann Fritch to second base and give Riley Sarton an opportunity.
She does lay down the bunt. Maddie Morgan will come across and make the throw in time. So an out for Alabama, but a huge sack bunt right there for the freshman.
And that is what we call execution right there. Bailey Klingler just squaring around, making sure the ball is down, and Morgan doing a great job of coming across the diamond, using her momentum to get that throw to first base, and Blake Ann Fritch is in safe at second.
So a runner in scoring position, and it's going to bring up the senior shortstop, Riley Sarton. Sarton is 0 for 2 on the day. Was hit by a pitch in the 3rd inning. And they are going to intentionally walk Riley Sarton. Are you surprised with this move?
I'm a little surprised only because Sarton does not have a hit on the day and not even on the series. So a little surprising that they're not going to try to test her. But knowing that you have Elder behind her who's also struck out 3 times looking, you know her confidence is down. So I'd take my chances on Elder rather than Sarton, who's probably due for a hit.
Yeah, and Tori, you make a great point. Sarton hitless on the series, but Alabama just showing the respect. They know how good of a hitter that Riley Sarton is. So when we're taking a look at this ball game, what is at stake? Well, there's a lot at stake, Tori. A 33-game win streak, the longest active in the nation for Alabama. Is the 3rd longest in NCAA history. And right now, Texas A&M trying to be the first team to take a win from Alabama.
And when talking to Coach Murphy before the series even started, he talked about just that pressure that social media and outside forces are putting on the team for the win streak to keep it alive. And he said, you know, we don't really feel the pressure, but right now I think they definitely are feeling that pressure. Runners on, top or bottom of the 7th, only 1 out. I think they have to be a little bit nervous right now that this game won't go in their favor.
Runners at 1st and 2nd, 1 out. Danny Elder steps in. She is 0 for 3 on the day with 3 strikeouts, but this is the first time she will face Sarah Cornell in the circle.
Struck out 3 times looking. You have to come up here being aggressive, knowing you're not going to let a pitch be borderline. You're not going to leave it to chance.
Takes a hack. This one popped up in the infield. Skylar Wallace will call for the ball and make the catch for out number 2. So a big out right there for Alabama. Neither one of the runners advance. And now you'll face Peyton McBride with 2 outs. McBride with a base hit in her last at bat. Hit an outside pitch to the left side of the field, right between that 5-6 hole. And I love the adjustment that Peyton McBride made in that last at bat. She struck out on basically the same pitch that she ended up hitting.
And
I should
that's
say
what
struck
the game
out earlier.
Is a game of adjustments. First one to adjust is the team that's going to win.
Outside pitch does catch the corner for strike 1, evens the count, 1 ball, 1 strike. Speed at 2nd for Texas A&M with Fritch. Riley Sarton at 1st. Pops this one back and out of play. Into the stands here at Davis Diamond. A nice little souvenir for a young Aggie fan to take home. Here's the 1-2 to McBride. Just gets a piece of it, fouls it back to the net.
McBride taking some big hacks here. I think she just needs to shorten up and put the ball in play, kind of take a few deep breaths, knowing that she doesn't need to score to win. Only Blake Ann Fritch, who's on 2nd, needs to score. Put something in the grass and give them a chance. Don't need a home run, don't need 3 runs, only need 1.
Drives this one into left field. They'll send Fritch. Here comes the throw. It's off the mark. Texas A&M with the walk-off single by Peyton McBride. The streak is over. Texas A&M, the first team in the country to take a win from the Alabama Crimson